So let's pretend I'm the owner of a manufacturing company. I might be listening right now, and I'm starting to look down the road 3 or 5 years, or maybe even a little further down the road when thinking about when it might be time for me to transition out. What kind of information should I be gathering now or starting to think about, just kind of looking out onto the horizon a bit, and are there specific resources you'd point people to just so they can educate themselves and be prepared for when that day comes?
Yeah. Good question. Again, I would go back to my comment about advisor.
Hmm.
I know a lot of sellers who by the time we bought the company, they had known the advisor they used for like 5 years. So I would suggest to a seller that if he's thinking about potentially selling the company, even if it's 3 to 5 years from now, I'd even go through the process of meeting some advisors now and getting some of those names, because there's a great chance that if he kind of focused on an advisor to potentially sell the company somewhere down the road, what that advisor will want to do is for free spend time getting to know the business and just getting to know that seller over the course of a couple 3 years.
Hmm.
And it might be just have coffee or have dinner or whatever, but they cultivate a relationship and an understanding of the business. And over time, they can give guidance to that seller about, hey, think of this, gather that, be prepared, 3, 4 years down the road. So many of these advisors will say, look, I'd love to get to know you and get to know your business for 3, 4 years before you even sign a contract that says you're going to pay me. So I definitely push people that way. Things that they should get to be thinking about. There's a lot, but the quickies, um, I would say that they definitely should spend some time making sure that their financial records are in order. Get a professional accounting firm in there. If they don't want to pay for an audit, they should at least be paying for professionally compiled financial statements. When guys like us show up, we want to know that we're not just looking at a tax return, that we're actually looking at a set of financial statements that were prepared and reviewed by a professional accounting firm. It would be ideal if they're going to sell their business, that they've got 3 years of professionally prepared financials. That's something to be thinking about. I think that they need to look at their management team, and they need to really make sure that they've got a management team in place, and they need to use somebody outside to give them objective opinions about what is a good management team. Because again, the value of a business is going to drop if the seller has to admit that when they leave, a bunch of information leaves the business, like customer relationships or technical information. So that seller needs to know, or they need to be able to convince a buyer that the people that are in place are generally capable and professional at continuing to run the business, and that not too many either customer relationships or operational issues are relying on the seller being there. Because if that's the case, then the seller can't get away from the business. So making sure that team is really top notch, and they're locked into, or they're brought into the loop of what's going on with the business and where they're headed with the strategy and how to handle customers. That's an important part too. Taking care of things like key equipment purchases. You don't want to sell business when you got equipment that's not good. That's basic stuff. Most entrepreneurs know the value of good equipment. And then, the last thing is, everybody who buys a company, they want to know that there's an opportunity for growth. And so there's two issues there. One is, don't be a business that has just one or two customers that are 60, 70, 80% of your business. If you have a lot of customer concentration, that's going to raise concerns for buyers, because we're going to say, well, what if you leave a seller and that customer goes, well, I liked working with Joe, now I'm out of here, and that creates risk for us. So they should do as much as they can to build as broad of a customer base to show diversity for the future. And that's a healthy business practice anyway, but it's definitely healthy to convince a buyer that there's not risk. And then, the other thing is to really make sure that they've got their head around the market they're in and the types of customer potential that's out there. It's not that they have to be actively selling into those markets, but they got to be able to explain to us, why do you do business? Why do people, buy from you? What's important about you? And how do we, double that into the future? So kind of getting their head around that value proposition, as you and I have talked about, is, they got to at least take a shot at trying to align that.
That's all great stuff. I mean, and everything you just touched on, these sort of, quick fire, here's the stuff to get in order. I mean, this is the stuff you just want to be doing anyway, right? Like,
exactly.
I don't remember who said it, but I received some bit of advice along the way, run your business at all times like you're looking to sell your business. And, if you just think this way, having the right people in place, having your positioning straight, who do we help and how, what value do we create? What's that, value proposition? Like you said, having your financials in order and having good advisors to help you with that stuff. All of that stuff is it's key to running a business anyway. And hopefully, people listening are thinking, yeah, I mean, we've got our stuff in order, but if we don't, well, it's probably regardless of where we are in our life cycle, it's time to start doing that right.